All right, Lepore, let's get into our next topic here. And it does relate to the Tampa Bay Lightning, the team that we just talked about.
Mm.
So, Carolina Hurricanes defenseman and pending free agent Dougie Hamilton.
Pending Toronto, maybe. I mean,
Hey, a lot of Leaf fans think he's coming. So
wait a second. Leafs fans think an upcoming free agent is going to sign with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
oh my God, breaking news, Lepore.
Breaking news.
Leaf fans think star NHL player is coming to their team.
He's from the GTA. That's always like
It's a lock. He's from the GTA. How could he not sign with the Leafs, Lepore?
Yeah. It seems like that only works with the old washed up guys, but anyway, not Tavares, but everyone else.
Man, I love it. But so Dougie Hamilton was asked, like what Carolina could have done better. Because Carolina, they finished as the number 1 seed in the Central Division. I was very high on them. I thought they were going to make a deep playoff run. And obviously they ran into the buzzsaw of the Tampa Bay Lightning. But yeah, Hamilton was asked what went wrong? What could Carolina do different, or what could they have done different? And how could they improve moving forward and things like that? And he said, quote unquote, we lost to a team 18 million over the cap.
Boom.
And he's not lying. When you look at the cap numbers, I believe the final total for the Lightning is like $98 million.
Yeah, I saw earlier today. It's like $98 million.
Because obviously they were stashing Nikita Kucherov on LTIR. He had off-season surgery. And, there was a lot of people speculating that Kucherov could have come back before the start of the playoffs. There were reports late.
Oh, he was skating for 3 months or something. Yeah,
he was skating in a regular practice jersey, well before the playoffs started. And everyone's like, okay, let's stop with this charade here. Kucherov could be in the lineup tonight. And they're clearly just stashing him for cap reasons. And they're honestly looking at the Lightning, there was no need to rush it. They came off their Stanley Cup last season. Kucherov, their best player, has off-season surgery. They were coasting through the regular season. And they said, honestly, screw it. When Kucherov comes back, we don't have any problem integrating a former league MVP, one of the top offensive players in the league. He's going to fit in no problem. And that's exactly what's happened, Lepore. But give me your take on these Dougie Hamilton comments about the Lightning being $18 million over the cap.
Not 50 million, 18 million over. So Hamilton's a smart guy. I actually like the way he did it. You brought up, he responded answering a question about how Carolina can get better or how they can put themselves in a better situation to succeed. So it's not like he came out screaming like a baby. So I appreciated how he brought that forward. With his point about Tampa being in this situation, it is sneaky. Okay. Let's all call a spade a spade. What they did is sneaky. What I do think, though, I think for something like this to happen, and you went through how it broke down, the stars really had to align for them to make it work. Number one, those players were hurt. Okay. And then you have the situation of the timing when they can come back. But I think more importantly, we're in a shortened season, and we're in a COVID, I'll call it a COVID season. So I think in normal circumstances, because everyone's bringing up, well, what's stopping this team from doing this, and Matthews to do it with the Leafs and McDavid to do it with the Oilers, and they just get loaded and add them in the playoffs. You need the player to agree, right? Let's say it how it is. Those players knew what was going on. So you have to get the players to agree to execute the situation the way it needs to be executed. I think in a regular 82 game season where all things are normal, I don't think star players are agreeing to sit out half a season or an entire season so a team can load up. No, players have pride. They care about their numbers and they want to play. So I think a lot of things aligned for Tampa. So I'm not going to go in full bonkers mode that this is absolute madness and they shouldn't be able to do this. But what I'd like to bring up, and I enjoy doing this anytime anyone has a problem with something, is I challenge them to come up with a solution. So what would be the solution to stop teams from doing this? A fair solution that can work across the board. And I don't really know. Because like, let's face it, this rule was put in place because if a team does have an injury, they should be able to, or the league thinks they should be able to kind of fill up that cap space another way. Well, then is it okay to say, tell that player that they can't come back if they're ready for the playoffs, or for that team to have to completely reshuffle everything to be under a certain cap come playoff time? Like, I'm open to that discussion, like yes, no, or maybe, but I don't really know. I don't know what like the perfect solution for it is. I don't think it's really going anywhere because as far as I know, this has been in place since the introduction of the cap. So I don't know. Like, it is gross. So like what they did was sneaky and it worked out perfectly for them. And I think this would be a lot bigger story if they were in a different market. Like if they were Boston or the Rangers or Philadelphia, or God help us, if this was the Toronto Maple Leafs doing something like this, like this would be the front page. Like, I'm an old person where people actually used to buy magazines and read newspapers. It'd be all over Twitter and it'd be the front of every website. So I don't know. Like, I'm not completely freaked out about it. I think it sucks. I think it sucks that we have this kind of situation, but until I could hear a solution to how to stop this in the future, I'm not going to say I'm okay with it, but I'm just kind of like, well, it is what it is. And they did it and they didn't break any rules. So where's your head at with it?
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? It's like players and teams and fans can complain all they want, but this is the rule right now. And I haven't seen a lot of people complaining about this in the past. I think this is just one of those unique situations, and not that it hasn't happened in the past, but this year in particular, it's been more magnified because you have the Stanley Cup champions that are, manipulating it this way. And it's Nikita Kucherov, one of the best players in the world. Yeah. And that's why I think a lot of people have been rubbed the wrong way. And especially like I mentioned, how you're seeing the reports from the Lightning beat reporters and they're, tweeting out videos of him skating and being involved in team practices like a month, 2 months before the start of the playoffs. And people are like, what the hell is going on here? But it's like you said, Lepore, right? The player has to agree to this. And when you think about Kucherov, like he didn't have like a minor, injury or ailment. Like this dude had like a major surgery in the offseason. So, it's understandable that it took him months to rehab and get back into shape. And I get it. He could have played. Let's just call it like it is. He could have played before the start of the playoffs, but the way the Tampa Bay Lightning saw this, they used it to their advantage, and they're a smart organization. I mean, why do you think Tampa over the last, 6-7 years under John Cooper have the best record in the NHL? Why do you think they draft so well? Nikita Kucherov, he wasn't a first round pick. Braden Point was a third round pick. Okay. Yeah. They've built look at guys like Yanni Gourde, right? Even like the trade that they made getting Sergachev, shipping out Drouin. Like this team year after year just makes smart decisions and they make calculated decisions. And for the most part, it always seems to work out in their favor. So honestly, it's like kudos to the Tampa Bay Lightning. If that's the rule in place and you're a smart organization and they're a team that's proven that honestly, they're smarter than pretty much every other team. Like they're right up there as like
smarter than ours.
100%. I have them right up there as like, if not the savviest organization, like in the top 2 or 3, just in terms of their decision-making year in and year out. And they saw an opportunity to take advantage of this, and Kucherov was on board. So yeah, I mean, credit to them. And Lepore, in terms of like coming up with a solution, it's just tough. Cause like, like you said, I don't know if I'm pretty sure it's been in place since the salary cap was instituted. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, it's like, how do you fix something like this? Right. It's just, it's a very difficult situation in terms of like, I don't know.
The logistics of like how it could work. One thing I thought of is maybe do it like at a lower rate. Like you can fill, let's say you have a $10 million player who gets injured, and it's playoff time and he comes back. Maybe you can go like, hey, if that $10 million player comes back, you can go 50%. So you can go like 5 million over the cap, like something like that. So it's kind of more fair. What I say fair, it's whatever's fair is whatever the rules are. But what I'd like to see is like, what's the take from some of the owners? because at the end of the day, like people point to different rules and what's fair and what's not. But what's significant is how the guys who own the teams feel, because a situation like this, we have a league where there's a lot of disparity in organizations and revenues, abilities to spend, not just on players, but on facilities like medical staff, coaching, development. If an owner of a small market team raised his hand and said, guys, like, I can't go 18 million over the cap. I can't. Based on what comes in, I can't afford to do that. That'd be interesting. Like I'd like to see those takes of owners saying it's hard enough for me to compete as it is. I'm grateful that we have a cap, and that team's going 18 over. How do I compete? So like that's something that may enforce like a push here. Like if you do have some ownership groups saying like no, like if we allow this to happen, like I have little chance as it is to like compete for a championship. So
Yeah,
I'll
if you're like the
absolutely
Arizona Coyotes, right?
Yeah, like let's face it, like that's the reality of this league. So that's where I could see if like a lot of feathers were ruffled that way, maybe. But I don't know. And but that all being said, usually like rules don't get changed until something drastic happens. And if the Lightning win the cup, this is considered something drastic because of how high they went over, and then owners flip out. It'll be such a bad look too. I told my buddies, I'm like, nothing's gonna happen, because I think what would push it would maybe be the Lightning winning the cup, because if they didn't win the cup, you could say, well, they didn't win the cup. So what did it really and truly matter? But let's say they do win it. And then let's say this summer, we're already in the summer, but in the offseason, the NHL comes out and says, well, we're going to change this rule. That's a bad look to change it right after. So maybe they wait a collective bargaining agreement or two to change that rule, just so it'll be a total like joke if they make that rule change right after a team wins the championship because of it. But to sum it all up, I don't think that we're going to see anything happen to it anytime soon anyway, for that matter.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. And I think you made a good point about owners, right? Like we haven't heard anything from the owners on this, as far as I know. Like nothing's been leaked to any of the reporters, any of the national reporters or anything like that I know of. So yeah, maybe it becomes, becomes a bigger discussion. Like you said, if Tampa actually repeats and then they go into those owners meetings and there's, a couple of these owners of these, teams like Arizona and, some of the other teams in similar situations, and they start freaking out about what happened and saying, well, we can't, like you said, we can't compete as is. We can't even get to the salary cap floor, let alone, go $98 million with our salary cap going 18 over. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's one of those situations where right now, I don't think it's going to change either. We'll see what happens if Tampa repeats, and then maybe things will get interesting in that regard.